happy to have you here today talking about the free online learning resources available through the Edmonton Public Library website. Jen Waters is our speaker today, and she's a community librarian at the Edmonton Public Library and sessional instructor at the University of Alberta. She loves gardening, dog walks, dresses with pockets, intergenerational programming, and creating quirky things with buttons. So now I'm just going to pass it over to you to get started. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be speaking with you today. I am, in fact, wearing a dress with pockets today, just to fit with my biography there. And like Nicole said, I'll be telling you a little bit about some of our online resources. I know that some of you are connecting by phone here, so I do have visuals of what the things look like on our computer, but I'll try to describe them a little bit too. And if this is something you're interested in and need a bit more help, you can, of course, always come to the library and speak to our staff after the session or any other time. So yeah, as Nicole was saying, I am a community librarian here at the Downtown Library, but we do have 22 different locations around the city in Edmonton. Depending on where you live, chances are you're close to one of them. They're all connected by transit, parking at each one of them. And usually in presentations like this, I talk a little bit about how to get a library card and all our various programs, but I'm going on the assumption that most of you do have a card already. If you don't, I can, of course, talk a little bit about that at the end. And I just thought I would focus today on some of the cool resources that we have on our website that are both for learning and entertainment. But of course, if you want to know anything else about the library, please do ask. You can pop it in the chat there, and I will get to those questions at the end. So when I talk about digital content, which is what I'm telling you about today, that's basically all of the online materials that we have on our website that you can sort of use or borrow in an electronic format. So as opposed to coming and signing out a paper book, these are things you can look at on your desktop computer, on a laptop, on a phone, anything like that. And the great thing to remember too is you can actually access them from anywhere, not just Edmonton, as long as you have an Edmonton Public Library card. So maybe you're visiting your family or grandchildren somewhere in the United States, somewhere else in Canada. If you do have your library card with you, you will still be able to use these resources that I'm telling you about today. And the great thing about using online books and online resources is there's no fines or fees. You don't have to bring things back by a certain time. You're just able to use them, and then they sort of disappear off your computer. So what we'll be talking a little bit about today are some of these databases that I think might be of interest to you. And I'm also telling you sort of how to find them. And on our website, which is just epl.ca, when you get to that website, you'll see a few tabs across the top. And the one that we're focusing on is called digital content. From there, you're going to have quite a long list of things, but I'm just going to focus on a few different things today. If this is of interest to you and you go to our website, you'll find many more things like this that you can check out later. So now, and the images that I have here on the screen are basically screenshots from the website. So when you go to our website, you will see something that looks very similar. So after we clicked on the digital content link, we come up with a bunch of different lists of ways that we can narrow down those results. What I have decided to choose for the purposes of today is learn. So that will take us to resources that are learning, that you can find more information. There's other ways you can search too. If maybe you're really interested in business or looking for things like consumer reports, if you're looking for information on fixing cars, if you're wanting art history, There's plenty of other ways you can search too, but the Learn tab gives you a lot of really interesting things. And so that's the way that we're going to go in for the purposes of this presentation. And so some of the ones that we're going to look at today are, the first one is called Gale Courses. They have topics, many different topics, things that you can learn. It's kind of like a short version of a university course. You don't get a degree or certificate. It's mostly just for your own interest, but lots of interesting topics within that one there. We'll also be talking about something called Learning Express Library. We have a site called lynda.com that was recently bought by LinkedIn Learning. So that's called LinkedIn Learning now. We have Creative Bug, which if you're into sewing or knitting, crafting of other sorts, painting, drawing, we can find some interesting classes and patterns and tutorials there. If you're wanting to learn to speak a different language, we have a couple language resources called Mango or Pronunciator. And both of those ones actually also have an app. So if you have a smartphone, that's something that you could download onto your smartphone. And if you need some help with how to do that, that's something you can always come to the library and we can help get you set up for that. And then we'll also be ending out with Great Courses and Modern Scholar. These are in some ways sort of similar to university courses. If you ever took literature or history or things like that, but just lots of great topics that are kind of packaged into some different courses on these websites. And I will say that for all of these sites that we're going to, you do need to have your EPL library card, but you will also be asked to set up a profile or an account. That's usually just an email address and your library card number, and you might need to add a password. That's because you start off on epl.ca at our library website, and then it sort of takes you off to another website. And from there, having that account is great because maybe you're learning to speak Spanish. You can track your progress. You might just want to do 10 minutes today, go back and do an hour tomorrow. You can keep track of the work that you've done already if you have that account. So those are the ones that we'll be looking at today, but there's many, many more. So if there's other topics you're interested in, you can always ask me about those at the end, or just come into our library and find a bit more about that. So the first one that we're going to start here with is the website called Gale Courses. So these are interactive and instructor-led online classes. They are 6 weeks long and they start sort of once a month. You can take up to, I believe it's 3 different courses a year. And there are ways to track your learning, take exams, things like that. But as I said before, it's not equivalent to taking a class at MacEwan or U of A. This is sort of a separate system, but we often tell people about Gale Courses if they're trying to, maybe if they're mid or late career and they're thinking about changing into a different area. They want to learn a bit about that area, but don't want to spend the time and money of going to university. They can do it that way. For yourselves, if you're retired, of course, it just can be different topics of interest to you as well. Yeah, and the other thing that I was going to mention about this, but with most of the websites I'm talking about, you start off at EPL and you go over to Gale Courses or LinkedIn Learning. Once you get to that website, you're on a separate website. You're no longer at epl.ca. So if you have specific questions about the course content, they usually do have an email address that you can email for help. They might have live chat. It's not to say that you can't ask questions of the library staff, but we may not know that content as exactly as the people that say work for Gale Courses. So that's just a good thing to remember when you're taking any of these classes. So this next slide just shows a little bit about some of the types of courses you can take through Gale. Some of the options are things like accounting and finance, computer applications, healthcare and medical, law and legal, personal development, writing and publishing. So say maybe you're working on, been writing a biography or writing some poetry, you could get some help with that there. You're wanting to learn different computer applications or types of technology, you could do that too. So it's just telling you a little bit of some of the different options. If you are interested in any of these courses, you can click on each heading and we'll give you a bit more information before you actually commit to taking the class. So you don't have to accidentally start taking it if you say, nope, not for me. So then the next one that we'll look at here is called Learning Express Library. This has a mix of video courses, information that you can read. This is one that we tell a lot of people about who are new to Canada, who might be preparing for citizenship exam. They might be completing their high school diploma and other things like that. But there are also some things if you are already a Canadian citizen, if you don't need help with any of those immigration tests, there's some really great classes on computer things. So if you want to learn a little bit more about using Microsoft Office, creating Excel spreadsheets, creating websites, things like that, this is a great one that you can go to get a little bit more help. And if you have some younger people in your lives, if you have grandchildren who are getting ready to go to college, this is a website that will also be helpful to them, both as they're applying to university and college, but also maybe as they're getting ready to go into the workforce. So if they're wanting to brush up on their cover letters, their resumes, this one can help them there too. And the thing that I like about all of these resources that I'm mentioning, there's usually interactive tests that you can take, notes you can keep. So it's not just information that you're reading. It really does help you interact with it to help you learn and remember it a bit better. Okay. So then the next one we're going to look at, this is the one that used to be called lynda.com and was recently bought by LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a website that many people use for finding a job, learning about what sort of jobs are out there, putting their information like their resume, their cover letter, so that if recruiters are looking. So they're basically just sort of like a big organization, almost like Facebook. And they basically bought lynda.com. I love telling people about lynda.com because it is such an extensive resource that is free with your library card. But if you don't have a library card, I think it's something like $200 a year, like it's quite expensive. So it has many different applications, including learning about software, technology, creative skills. Maybe you or some people in your family are really interested in things like 3D design, maybe editing video that was shot on a family vacation, putting together photos, editing photos that you might have from your family. And these are courses that are taught by industry experts, so people who really know their stuff in the area. And I really like this one because a lot of the ways of learning are just short little videos that you can watch and won't take you too long. You can pause them, you can come back to them later. Yeah, it's just a really comprehensive one. So the slide that I have right up right now shows some of the topics that are available at lynda.com. It's things like 3D software and modeling, product design, character animation, visual effects, Photoshop. So a lot of very technical things. This might be an area that you're interested in, or this might be an area that someone else in your family might want to learn more. And maybe you could pass this on to them. At our library downtown, we have what's called a makerspace with all sorts of cool technology, including a 3D printer. And a 3D printer can print sort of like plastic objects, something as little as maybe a part from your dishwasher broke and it's expensive to replace it, or you're creating toys, maybe game pieces for a chess game. This is something that the public can use at the library downtown, these 3D printers. And what we have are computers that people can come to and design something that's a 3D object on the computer and then essentially send it to the 3D printer. And you get sort of an appointment time, find out roughly how long it will be. And then you do pay a small amount for 3D printed things, but that's just for the plastic filament that's being used. So it's just sort of a cost recovery for the materials. It's a little bit like if you come to the library and you print off paper, you pay per page. It's a little bit the same, but you just pay for the plastic materials that are used. So yeah, lynda.com has all sorts of cool technical things, but also has things that are a little more simple. Maybe you're wanting to learn more about PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, Excel, if you're doing spreadsheets for budgets, that sort of thing. And you can learn all of those things there. Okay, so now to shift focus a little bit, because the ones that I've told you about already are very a little serious when you think of some of the classes you can take, but we also have arts and crafts databases. So Creative Bug is an educational video resource that focuses on arts and crafts. And there's all sorts of interesting things you can learn there, including making crafts out of paper, sewing, holiday decor. And the cool thing about this one is it comes with downloadable patterns, templates, recipes. If you're looking to learn a particular type of crochet or knitting, maybe some woodworking, the patterns and the sort of instructions of how to do them will be right there, along with videos that you can watch as well. Well, that's kind of a neat one. Okay, so I had also mentioned if you were interested in learning languages, whether you speak English as a second language and are wanting to brush up on your English, or whether you speak English already and really want to learn Spanish or German, Tagalog, Punjabi. There's many different choices in Mango language learning. There are 70 different options of languages. And similar to the ones I told you about before, you create a profile, usually just with your library card number, your email address, and a password. And that way you can track your progress. I used Mango Languages a couple years ago when I went to Germany on a vacation, and didn't speak any German at all before, but started taking some sort of German for tourists classes, learning a little bit about how to take transit, how to order food at a restaurant, how to buy groceries, how to go to the laundromat, that sort of thing. And so there was a lot of practical for travel things in there. I found pretty helpful. I downloaded it onto my phone so I could listen to a lesson while I was on the bus or the LRT. Maybe I only had 10 minutes. I could learn a little bit right there. Don't ask me to say anything in German because I have a terrible memory and I probably forget everything. So this screen just shows just a few of the options with Mango Language Learning, but there's many more. The ones on this screen are Chinese, Persian, Japanese, English, French, and Spanish. But there's many other options. And I also like that there are different options within a language. So for example, Chinese, I think there is Mandarin and Cantonese. And for example, in the Punjabi, Gujarati, that sort of the South Asian languages, there's a little bit of difference between the different places where that language is spoken. So for example, Spanish spoken in Latin America versus Spanish spoken in Europe. And still on the topic of languages here, Pronunciator is another one that we have. And this one has up to 163 languages, which is an awful lot of languages, and comes with a combination of movies and music and other ways that you can learn those different languages. Kind of like with Mango, there's quizzes, there's pronunciation analysis. So a lot of the time in these databases is spent just listening to the word and then saying it back and practicing, listening to the word, saying it back, because really the best way to learn a language is to speak it as opposed to write it down. This is a slide that is filled with many, many, many language options. I'm not going to read them all off, but some of the ones that are a bit different from Mango, there's Amharic, there's Azerbaijani, we have Estonian, Hebrew, Nepali, Portuguese, Somali, Tibetan. So there's just so many different languages. If you're looking for a language that is maybe a little bit more rare, Pronunciator is probably the best place to go to look for it. And this one also, I forgot to mention, this one also has sign language. So there's American Sign Language. I believe there's Mexican Sign Language. So a couple different choices too. So if that's something that you're either trying to brush up on or you speak sign language already and want to learn a little bit more. Okay, so we're nearing the end here. I just have a couple more to tell you about. The Gale Courses is, I would say, kind of equivalent to taking a college or a university class. At the beginning, I spoke about things like history, English literature. If that's an area of interest that either you've been interested in your whole life or you've just recently gotten into, this might be a great one for you. So they're college level courses and they come in digital format. This one also does have a book and CD and DVD option that you can check out from the library. So if you would prefer to bring home a copy as opposed to use the online version, we do have some of those at the library too. I believe it comes with a DVD, so like a movie, comes with a CD you can listen to, and comes with a small textbook that you can flip through as well. But the version that I'm showing you here is what's called a streaming format. So the same way that when you go onto Netflix or Crave or the Disney Channel, you watch a movie just sort of in real time. It's similar, but with these courses. And the way that you're streaming that is through something called Canopy, which is a database that has all sorts of things like books, movies, music, And this is just one of the things that you can find through Canopy. Many films are available there. If you're looking for classics, older films, lots of great content there. Things like PBS type of movies are on there, independent filmmakers. And with this one, you can borrow or stream up to 10 items a month. So there is a limit, but it's still pretty generous. And like I said, with the other one, the great thing about these online options is there's no late fees. So once your time with the item is up, it just disappears off your computer. You never have to worry about getting back to the library in time to return it. So this screen just shows some of the options that are available through Gale Courses. There's things like ancient Egypt, the Renaissance, the age of Benjamin Franklin, economic history of the world, Western civilization. So those are some of the history ones, but then there's also things like how to draw, the art of cooking, dog training, screenwriting, great music of the 20th century, Shakespeare, science and gardening. So lots of different options there of courses that are just really interesting. And as with the other ones, if you were taking them through university, you'd be paying for them. But when you take them through the library here, they're all free. Okay, so the last one that we'll talk about here is called Modern Scholar. And this, quite similar to the Gale Courses, we would regard these as college level classes that are both in a streaming format. And I believe we also have some copies you can borrow from the library too. It's quite a heavy focus on humanities. So things like history, the decline and fall of Rome. For science, we have evolutionary psychology. For literature, there's things like the giants of Irish literature. And similar to the last one we looked at, you can borrow or stream up to 10 items per month of these types of materials. And the nice thing about the online ones is you don't have to wait for them. There isn't that same process of putting something on hold and waiting until it comes in. If you're interested in it, you can start watching or listening to it right away. If this is something that you're wanting to do at home and you do have questions about your computer and what's the best browser to use, what's the best type of desktop or laptop or that sort of thing, that's something that you can always ask our staff about too. This just shows an example of one of the modern scholar. This is Alexander of Macedonia. And yeah, just a lot of really interesting world history. I'm not sure about you, but I took history and literature and stuff in university back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And I found a lot of those courses really interesting, but I have forgotten a lot of what I've learned. So it's always interesting to go back and read that again or learn about a different part of the world, that sort of thing. Okay, so all of these things that I've told you about are through the EPL library website. But if you do need help and want to get set up on them, there's a few ways that you can contact the library. So the first way is that you can call the library. The number is 780-496-7000. And when you call that main number, you'll just get connected with our staff. But if you're looking for a particular area of the library, we might be able to patch you through or to another branch. The second way that you can get help is visit our website. That's EPL.ca. And through that website, there is a chat option. So basically you are typing messages on the library website to library staff who are answering your questions. And then of course, the third way is you can visit any one of our 21 locations. We have them all around the city, including a couple small kind of storefront locations in some of the newer communities. And the staff who are at the front desk there can always help show the website to you, show how to get connected to these different databases, and of course, answer all of your other questions about items, about holds, signing up with library cards, that sort of thing. And this last slide here is just a photo of me with my personal email address. I did give you the general contact information for the library, but if you do have specific questions about the information today or other things, you're welcome to email me too. My email address is Jennifer, which is JENNIFER .waters, WATERS @EPL.ca. And I'm always happy to answer your questions, whatever they may be. I've said this before, but I don't include my phone number because I'm much better at emailing than I am at talking on the phone. So that's probably a more efficient way of getting a hold of me. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here, and I would love to answer questions if anyone has questions about the information that I talked about, or just general questions about the library too. I'm just going to go to the Q&A here and see. So Helen had asked, do you have to download any corresponding apps to your computer in order to access and use some of the streaming sites, such as the Modern Scholar or Gale Courses? So that's a great question, Helen. It's a bit of both. So there is an option for a couple of them to download an app, but for most of them, you do not. You do not need an app. An app is probably just what you would want to sign up for if you were looking at these things on like an iPhone, an iPad, that sort of thing. If you're just looking from your home computer, from your laptop, from a computer at the library, you won't need to download anything additionally. You'll just need to have your library card number and put in your email address and stuff, and you'll be able to get started right away. Thank you for that question. You're very welcome. I'm actually interested to know, have any of you folks started off using any of these websites already, or was this information new to you? Have some of you used some of these resources before, or is this all new information today?
We're definitely going to have a little bit of a delay here.
That's okay. Yeah.
Because of the typing.
New for you, yeah. And that's and I sort of assumed that it was new for a lot of people, which is why we have hundreds of databases, but I just picked a handful because I know that it can be incredibly overwhelming. And I don't want to give you so much information that you're like, ah.
Lots of fun to explore though, right?
Absolutely.
Like especially, and the timing, you know, especially as we kind of enter into winter and the coldest part of the year, just such a great resource to have at your fingertips for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, like, I didn't, because I wasn't focused on talking about programs. We do have a combination of in-person and virtual programs at the library right now, depending on your interests. So if you're not comfortable being in the library space, we do have a number of virtual presentations on interesting topics, speakers from the universities, panels about different topics. Like back in March, I organized a panel talking about the war in Ukraine So we had experts talking about some of the history of the region, how we got to where we were and where they thought it was going. So we have some things online if you're more comfortable with that format, but we also do have programs in person again. And I'll put a little plug in for one that I run called Learn Downtown. That happens once a month. The last Wednesday of the month is kind of like a lunch and learn. So it just goes from 12:15 till 1 o'clock. And we've had speakers from things like the Royal Alberta Museum, talking about artifacts. We had a session in our new kitchen space where we were cooking with a chef. We've had experts from Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute. So they do artificial intelligence, and were able to tell us a little bit about that. And so it's just a little bit of a taste tester on some of these big topics that you might have heard of, might be interested in, but don't really know where to start. So that's an example of one that we do have in person at the library, if you're comfortable coming. But if you're not comfortable coming, we do have ones you can watch through the computer as well.
That's fabulous. I remember in the pre-pandemic times, because Sage is just down the block from the downtown EPL, and before the renovation started, going to those lunch and learns, and they're just always so fascinating, right? Just such a wide variety of topics, and an amazing thing to have right there.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I've learned the one that we had last month was Explore Edmonton, and we're talking about the tourism economy of Edmonton, which was really interesting. Like just both, like they were listing pre-pandemic numbers, but talking about things like decisions for cities to become hubs for a certain industry, or for example, like Calgary is the main hub for international travel flights. And because Calgary is a hub, Edmonton probably will never be. But there's certain things that cities are doing to try to like boost tourism. And it's just really fascinating that, like, you know, I've lived in Edmonton for 12 years, and most of the things the speaker was talking about, I had no idea about.
No idea. Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much, Jen. I think we can wrap it up. That was super interesting. And it's always, even if people are aware of these resources, it's always a nice reminder, right, that this is there, and do some exploring and maybe find something new. So that's really great. I do want to let people know that Jen has volunteered her time to be with us today. So we're super thankful for that. And I've just got a few closing things to say